In Blood and Iron there are many urban maps, which I'll be classifying as any maps with any sort of building that is intact. In these sides there are two strategies. One side spawn camps to make it into a regular old battle, or they both charge at one of the urban areas. And when both sides charge, urban warfare commences. To be victorious, you will have to stick to your team and outmaneuver your enemy. If you're outmaneuvered, you will die, and if you are alone, you will probably also die. In urban warfare, you can change the terrain of the battlefield to better fit your needs. If you're in a house, you can add a few barricades to delay your enemy. If you're in an open road, you can add a few stakes to stop cavalry. Now I'll be starting us off with a battle in which I fortify a town, which almost leads to victory. I'll be skipping the part in which I build the fortifications and go straight into the combat. At the start of this battle, my team decided to charge, which was to half of the team dying. Despite this, since the other half was hiding inside the town, I fortified the town to see if we could last. Sadly, not many of my teammates could survive the Brunswick onslaught, and I ended up fighting against most of the army by myself. Despite hiding in a town, you'll still have to engage in melee, and if you're not able to dodge your enemy and outsmart them, you will die quite fast. And if you're not hiding properly, you'll get shot and die. This scenario, we were being besieged, and since most of our team was unable to get behind good cover, they died, leaving us with one ranker and myself. In a siege, after running out of men, you will most likely die, since each skirmish with one of the enemy's rankers or sappers or whatever it may happen to be will reduce your health until eventually you meet someone you just aren't able to beat. In the rest of this part, I try my best to dodge all the laggy riflemen's attack, but ultimately it would be to no avail and I'd die. Moving on to the next battle, which is a great example of a siege ending in an all-out defense, and also show how being outmaneuvered can lead to disastrous consequences for the enemy and for yourself. During this battle, I decided to fortify one side so that when the charge comes, we'll only have to worry about one of the sides until they break the wall, of course. Luckily, this scenario did not happen. But since we were greatly outmaneuvered, we had lost half of our force by this point. Now, since we were in a dire position, the rest of the defenders of the town started to move into spots that'd be more easily able to be defendable, and I started working on getting rooftop access to be able to flank the enemy. Sadly, the enemy had mounted a strong enough force to be able to break through our defensive line, and we had to retreat. I managed to be able to deal with two enemies after outmaneuvering them, and then started to run. After realizing that the other half of our team was almost completely gone, I proceeded to go out and help one of my teammates so that we'd have at least some manpower. Sadly, that ranker was killed by an Irish ranker, so I proceeded to attempt to catch a Frenchman off guard. Sadly, they went to go hunt for the other Brit, but I had some time to look for other ones to try to catch off guard. During these scenarios, if you're alone, you're probably not gonna be surviving for a long time. So I decided to go out and try to find my teammate, which actually turned out to be very quickly since he went out to find me. Now, knowing that the last 3 people were likely not gonna come straight for us, we started to hunt them down. Since going out into the open would be a death wish with the amount of men we had, we limited our search to just a small corner. Thankfully for us, the French decided to not wait for us to go outside and went straight into hunting us. Sadly, we weren't able to kill one Irish sapper, and after being separated, we promptly lost the match. Now I'll be moving away from being a sapper and into the next battle. In this battle, the enemy decided to fortify, so we'd be the ones besieging the enemy. They made the horrible mistake of fortifying inside a building, which often leads to death since it limits your room for maneuvering and doesn't give you many exits. After getting rid of some skirmishers, we proceeded to go look for them. Thankfully for us, it was quite obvious where they were at, and we started to break down their fortifications. Since camping inside a building is probably one of the worst tactics in game currently, we were able to quickly deal with the first line of defense. Thankfully for us, there was only one barrier we'd have to go through after breaking the first line of defense. This barrier was a very crude one, which we were able to very quickly bypass. Since the enemy had not made any traps for us, we were able to start our main push, which was a one-sided massacre since the enemy did not fortify very well. They didn't use any of the houses to attempt to add extra traps, which they very well could have done, and also probably retreated a bit more so that they didn't allow us to just completely bypass some of their barricades, which allowed us to win the match very quickly. Moving on to the final example, it's a very unique example, one that defies all common sense. It's becoming a boggler and running straight to the enemy spawn. It's the best urban warfare tactic, and if you don't try it at least once, you won't know if your enemy has any intelligence.